Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is at 10 a.m. Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is citizen input for items that are not on the agenda as a public hearing. So we do have a request. Item number 5, I think we'll get to that. So at this time, in order, I have them up here, Mr. Ron Bozell.
Good morning, Deschutes County Commission. I'm Ron Doe, longtime resident of Bend, Oregon. I would like to talk about responsible speech. I consider myself part of this only because I do consider myself a community leader, that I try to be careful that what I say is truthful and honest and factual. Yes, I have a lot of opinions. I try not to express them whenever I'm in a position of leadership or responsibility. So I'm just going to say, without asking for names or personalities to be brought into this conversation, please, I really ask the three of you specifically, when you do your job, and we believe you, and with important subjects, especially emergency issues like fire in our community, I would just like to ask for our speech to represent specific gain to the community for your words on the subject. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Mr. Carl Shoemaker.
Hello, I'm Carl Shoemaker. I live in Bend. I was just talking to my good friend Will Rogers this morning, over there across the parking lot with his lasso and his cowboy hat. Well, he was talking about President Herbert Hoover, who believed in trickle-down economics. But Will Rogers says what President Hoover didn't realize, that money actually evaporates up like water from the ocean up into the clouds. And so if the working person has money in their pocket in the morning, well, it's going to evaporate up to the super rich before nightfall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Michael Paulson.
Morning.
Good morning.
My issue has to do with fuel reduction. I'm 75 years old. I live at 1715 Holmes Road, and the flat fire just about took our place out. Over the last 2 years, I bought a Kubota tractor and a chipper. Spent a lot of time removing material and taking it to the transfer station. Now, in the past, I've probably taken 100 loads of Big Tex, which is about 6 cubic yards of material, to the dump, and I try to plan it around that window of 10 days every year. I think that's a great program, and I love the Heart of Oregon kids.
So you drop it off pre-chipped. Pre-chipped. You're dropping off a pile of chips every time.
I'm dropping off brush.
Okay. Yep.
What I don't chip on the property, I chip it on the property, I just disperse it in the soil. Overdale's been out to my place. They love it. They think I've done a great job, all that good stuff. But I think something needs to be done for additional fuel reduction, especially for people with ranches from 5 to, I'm looking at the clock, 5 to say 100 acres. That would include a lot of Crooked River Ranch, which is a lot of times they're that big. Ours is 40 acres. I would love to see a program for reducing soil or reducing burnable material, fuel, specifically aimed at people who have 5 to 100 acres. Now, my suggestion would be to create a document, have people fill it out, maybe give you a nominal fee of like $100, and then have that occur over a 1-year period. And then, so if I'm in October and I don't have to stockpile material on the property, if I decide to do some more removal, I can take it to the dump immediately, show them my card, you know, for fuel reduction for ranchers or that kind of thing. And I think it'd be a great program. I tried to find out how many properties are 5 to 100 acres. I went upstairs because you guys got a little late start today and I had a little extra time, so I went up and they said that, yeah, we can tell you that, but it'll cost you a fee. And all I wanted to do was just know the number of people so that it would, so you'd have some idea in terms of what the impact would be on budgeting and scheduling. That's why I'm here. Since I've got a few minutes, I'm gonna say.
I think she started a minute late, but yeah, go ahead. And yeah, amazing.
I saw flames when we evacuated. The only house that was lost, which is about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 yards north of us right now, was a fellow, an 81-year-old named Baxter, who lived here.
Yeah.
And they got him out. And there's 100 stories like that. Since they started the thing, I think I could talk on and on.
So, yeah, go
You
ahead.
don't have to use the
Yeah,
full
yeah.
3 minutes. Mr. Paulson, I just wanted to mention that that Project Wildfire, the County Natural Resources Office, and the Deschutes County Forester work with typically neighborhoods on disposal. You know, kind of making it easier to dispose of hazardous fuels reduction, material. So they have done things like organized dumpsters for neighborhoods on a regular basis. They are researching things like air curtain burners. If you're familiar with that, basically it's a machine that can safely burn that material on site as opposed to having to haul it somewhere. So they put a lot of thought into how to make it easier for property owners to dispose of material. So I think it would be worthwhile for us to get you in contact with the county forester and the folks that meet every month at Project Wildfire to brainstorm with you on some of the ideas you're putting out.
Well, that's really my only idea. I've dealt with the county forester before, and I dealt with the dumpster thing. I actually got a $5,000 grant from the forester in 2013 when we had that fire. I don't know if you remember it. They came up. I used to live on the rim on Hollywood, and at 1 in the morning, the flames came up the wall and just about took us out. I got really involved in our
Yeah.
Going way over at this point, but
Right.
Specifically, I do the sweat. I load the truck,
Mhm.
take it to the thing, and if they charge me $36 for a load of material, that's not an incentive for producing material, but it's, I'm retired.
Yeah.
So I think that something like that would be simple to set up. You do it next week, actually, and then publicize it and give people the opportunity to reduce that fuel. BLM, I spoke with the BLM because we're adjacent to 440 acres of BLM property. They basically said, you can create a buffer around your house if you submit a form. Oh, by the way, the amount of material that you can remove, 200 pounds. That's
Nothing. Yeah.
Peanuts.
But
Peanuts.
if I had I'm probably gone way over.
No, Michael, I am so glad because I'm so glad you came in. It was, we're in the same neighborhood and I see all those juniper trees and I saw them ignite not far from my house Saturday night. And honestly, when I drove over Sunday to see how that fire actually managed to stop, because they were dumping water on it for hours and then the ridgeline came down. But somebody had run a 12-foot blade bulldozer along that line. That's what stopped it burning at that point in time, because yeah. So I think your idea really does make sense. You know, we do have the 585,000 that's going to be running through the Soils and Water District here in Deschutes County, but that's for 100 acres. So if you could pull together with a couple more of your neighbors and to make that 100 acres, I think that would be just really excellent for your side of Holmes Road.
But the fact that when I do all that work, load the thing, and then go off to the dump and then get hit with $36 load fee, is just discouraging.
Yeah.
And if you had a program where you had $100 per year, that would be an incentive for a lot of people, individuals. Sorry, I can't tell you how many people have property.
But we know that there were over 21,000 properties in Deschutes County that were high risk. So I'm sure that a few of those 21,000 have junipers. And honestly, everybody needs to clean out more junipers in order to be safer for the next one.
It's the reservoir was drained.
Was it drained? Well, they were using my neighbor Rick's pond, which has 1 million gallons in it. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
So
They were,
Yeah.
when they emptied Mackenzie, they went to those two.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Well,
So again, I'd like to encourage you to speak with county staff. There's a right hand, left hand issue here. I mean, on the right hand, we absolutely want to encourage everyone to implement defensible space and make their homes as resilient as possible. If I could just finish, sir. On the left hand, we operate a landfill and it is rapidly filling up. We're trying to keep it from filling up. We're trying to generate funds from what's disposed there to open a new landfill. So I really like the general idea of making it easier for property owners to dispose of this material, making it easier for them to protect their homes. And at the same time, we need to do that in a way that doesn't fiscally impact the solid waste operation. And so figuring that out is a really good staff project. And that's why I'm encouraging you to talk to the county forester. Thank you.
Take into account what the flat fire costs.
right.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
So,
hope you do it.
I got my topic real quick. Have you burned on your property? Because I mean, I'm in that same spot. I have a few acres, and one day I was talking to the forest management folks, and they said, well, you live a few acres, right? Why don't you just burn? So you set up a pile, you might cover it in plastic to get into the winter, wait for a wet, rainy day, and just light a pile on fire. So any thoughts about that? Yeah, okay.
We've got a burn pit bigger than this one.
Okay, so
Rocks that are about that tall, and every year we do it.
so you're doing all three. Just making sure, yeah, you're using the burning option because it's a way to reduce.
75,000 gallons of cistern and pond water that I'm shooting into the BLM adjacent to our place just to make sure it's super saturated.
Yeah.
Because those, you know.
Good. Well, just making sure that option's out there too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in this morning. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon.
Is there anyone else for citizen input? Is there anyone online? Okay, seeing none at this time, commissioner announcements.
Oh, how appropriate. I had someone, they couldn't wait to see me, to tell me that they were told they had to spend $18 to drop off at the Redmond transfer station one little file cabinet. They were so furious. They said they wouldn't pay it. And $18. And they said, you know what, Patty, what happened in the past is that people, when the fees got so high, they just started dumping their trash by the road. So is there any way you can have a minimal charge and it's not $18? So that's for you, Tim.
There we go. So thank you. So anything else?
I have a couple things, but you can go ahead first.
So I'm going to do this. So the Cascades Futurity and Aged event is joining us at the fairgrounds. Jody Gray has joined us. We texted and spoke to her on the phone, and we came up with this. So this is a recognition of the event and some discussion amongst us all. So Jody, thank you very much for joining us. When you and I spoke, I had to be explained what the word futurity means, because I know of horse cow events, and I just never knew about futurity.
Futurity is the 3-year-olds. That's when they start competing. This is basically the first time that these horses are showing. So it's pretty exciting and it's a lot of fun for all of you to come out and see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that cutting horses started competing back from ranchers when they had great cow horses, and they wanted to show how much better their horse was, and
Mhm.
kind of how this evolved, how they would separate
Yeah.
cows from their mamas and doctor them. So that's kind of where this started. It's grown into a multi-billion-dollar sport. We're very, very grateful, commissioners in the county of Deschutes, to have the facility that you have, that we compete at, and that we bring over 600 horses, fill the hotels, fill the RV park. We're here for over 2 weeks. We really enjoy this county. We enjoy the restaurants, the shopping, the hotels, the area that we really enjoy it. So we really want to thank you for.
And an invitation for the community to come see the activities, right?
Yes, we're here. We started yesterday. We're here all the way through the 14th, all day long. We have lots of shopping. I know your wife's going to come.
I was talking about how many hats does a cowgirl need?
A lot.
Yeah,
One per week.
one a day.
Yeah, and Patty's come, so she's
Yeah.
seen what we do and what these horses are absolutely amazing. So if you're at all interested, you should come check it out.
And to say something really nice about the people that are coming and competing, I heard that they were the nicest people that are at our fairgrounds all year long, from someone who's a vendor there. She said you couldn't ask for nicer people. So, of course, I love horses, and I will be there.
So we have a certificate for you. So the Deschutes County Board of Commissioner acknowledges the Cascades Futurity and Aged event for showcasing agriculture and the thrilling ability of cow horses and their riders, and for bringing many out-of-state visitors to Deschutes County every year since 2018 with significant economic impacts. Presented on this third day of September 2025. So yes, a certificate we'll sign here for you and be able to present. Any other thoughts?
Well, thank you. I mean, I can't believe it. You started in 2018. It's really outstanding. Have the number of horses gone up this year? Because
About 25 or 30 higher than last year. Each year it grows. I think we started with 250 and we're at over 600. 8 years, it's definitely grown.
And it's very much Western horse.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, if you're on a cutting horse moving a cow, you really want to be in a Western saddle.
Yes. Move very fast.
Yes, yes. The lateral motion is outstanding. So no, I look forward to coming down. Is Mrs. Knight still part of the, yes, no,
Yes.
yes, Penny?
Yes.
Okay, because I really think the fairgrounds looks it looks awesome when I saw it. I think it was 2 years ago. It was so amazing what, the whole decor, the whole aura of the center. So thank you for coming.
We could get a quick photo if you'd like. We can hand her a certificate.
Good. A photo. You got
Yeah.
where's your
Just real
hat?
quick. Yeah, well now, not
really.
Western right now. I got my boots.
I actually dress meeting now.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You can get them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There we go. How's that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
see you soon.
Some more horses. That's great. Yeah, I noticed that things are quieter. As far as equine problems, so that's good.
Yes, doing great. Thank you.
So Commissioner Chang, announcements?
Yeah, couple things. Talking to Mayor Letts from Sisters, over the last week, she indicated interest in having more easily accessible information for county residents who are basically going home after being evacuated from the flat fire and trying to figure out how to, recover in the long term. Questions like, how do you dispose of the solid waste that's been generated by your property being burned? How do you get permits for rebuilding outbuildings or homes? Um, what kind of public health concerns are there in a burned area or an area that has had fire retardant dumped on it? Can people get access to mental health services, things like that? So I checked with a variety of county staff, and they were already at work on some of this. We added a couple of ideas for other things that they could put on this resource page, but Ben Duda and Nathan Garibay are working on a web page with a bunch of resources right now, and they've had a simple two-page flyers to share with people. So just wanted you all to know that that was happening in a formal way.
So one note along those lines, I remember after the Labor Day fires 5 years ago, emergency managers around the state, and we had a little powwow here, was emergency management and our health department acknowledging the recovery phase of an event. So that is part of, emergency management, is responding to, being able to manage and complete a fire event, but then the response for the community and recovery. So that is, kind of part of the cycle, and we should all acknowledge that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, especially, this last weekend marked the 5th anniversary of the Labor Day 2020 fires, and there are a whole lot of people in the McKenzie Canyon, in the Santiam Canyon, down in the Rogue Valley who, 5 years later still have not had a chance to rebuild their homes, recover in various ways. So I'm really glad that staff is working on these resources to support people. Four homes lost or 5 homes lost is not, 4,000 homes lost in the Labor Day 2020 fires, but it's still very impactful for the people who experienced that. So that was first item. Next, I wanted to mention the 3 of us were contacted probably 6 or 8 weeks ago by North Unit Irrigation District. They had a lot of questions about, well, they said they had questions about Oasis Village. Really, they had questions about the managed camp that we're working with the city of Redmond on in East Redmond. And after talking with them, what they really had questions about was, what is going on in East Redmond that is, causing more and more unsheltered homeless people to migrate east and camp by their canal on the BLM lands east of the county's property. And so we talked to, I got together with them and Mayor Fitch and Councilor Nielsen, and we just talked them through all of the things that are happening in East Redmond, Core 3, the 137 acres, and other things, the fencing of the runway exclusion zone, all of these things that are resulting in, people being, unsheltered, homeless people being removed, and then finding new places where they're going to go. So it was a good discussion. They, after that discussion, they were actually excited about the managed camp because they said, oh, well, if there's all this wave of people coming east, towards our canal, if some of them land in that managed camp instead, then that is that many less people who are trying to camp by our canal and run. They talked about people who were running hoses, into the canal and, had pumps to pump water out so that they could basically have a residence out in the junipers and the BLM land there. So kind of one final point of coordination that we're going to work on is, I told them I would be sure to let them know when we thought when we thought the clearing of the 137 acres was going to happen, so that if they would be prepared in case there was a wave of more people headed out east towards the canal.
Great, thank you.
And we do have that managed camp meeting tomorrow, actually, at 1:30, and I will be attending that. So, yes, I believe we are still making progress there.
Great, a good update in support of that. Any other announcements? Seeing none, consent agenda, 3 items, a couple set of minutes today.
So move.
Consent agenda. Second.
Any other discussion?
I noticed, what is it, couple $100,000 that we're spending on telehealth. And I really believe from my conversations with Janice Garceau, who's now retired, that really therapy in person is 1,000 times better. So seeing that amount, I'm just wondering who's actually using that. And if we can get in-person therapy, I do believe that's much more beneficial on all sides.
Is there a follow-up you want to do on that, or is?
Well, no, it's it's reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, 320,000 for 1 year.
And my fellow commissioners might recall 6 or 12 months ago, a behavioral health brought us a request to add a position in order to reduce the reliance on outside contractor telehealth, telemedicine for behavioral health. So what we're seeing here is kind of the residual, but they are already taking steps in the direction of ramping down our use of remote contractors for providing behavioral health services.
Supportive.
A follow-up could be for us to ask them, to come and report on, well, how much do we think we'll need for how long? And, is there a time when we're doing it all with our own people, even if some of that is done by telehealth? Because I know that there's value in people visiting. They might have a developed relationship with a therapist or a clinician, and on their 4th or 5th meeting, it's actually helpful for them to just pop in for 20 minutes by Zoom instead of coming into the office every once in a while.
Well, yeah, so we'll just leave that as discussion and understanding that it'll be something we can look into or learn more about in the future. So any other discussion, consent agenda? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. So item number 4, proclamation of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Thanks for being flexible today. We're all over the place just trying to get to our first action item, but thanks for joining us. Let's get to it here. So as I say, this is a proclamation in support of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So Caroline and Bethany, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Board of County Commissioners, and thank you for having us today. The Suicide Prevention Program team and the Prevention Health Promotion section of Public Health, thanks you all for giving time to the agenda today to recognize
Do you
suicide.
mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Giving time to recognize that September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. My name is Caroline Suter. I use she, her pronouns. My title is Mental Health Promotion Strategist.
And my name is Bethany Kushel. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm Deschutes County Suicide Prevention Program Coordinator.
Yeah, and today we're here just briefly to highlight why Suicide Prevention Awareness Month matters in our community. Talk a little bit about some data, some recent data, and what our program has had as far as impact and reach within our community, and then share and feature a little bit of some of the local events that are free to our community members for this month, as well as some resources. Okay. So why National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month matters is because it gives us an opportunity to just highlight the visibility and understanding and promote some hope to an issue that often is surrounded by silence and stigma. So recognizing that often occurs, there's some essential things to kind of keep in mind when it comes to suicide prevention. One is that suicide is a public health issue because often it affects so many different individuals, not only within our community, but globally, because suicide does not discriminate. It is often a frequent issue that occurs across many different communities. One of our most recent national research studies shows that for every one single suicide death, up to 135 individuals are impacted by that loss, and in turn can be at risk themselves. There is no one single reason why someone may struggle with suicide or die by suicide, but it is a preventable type of death, and there's a lot that we can do as community members to prevent suicide. One way is to know the signs and resources that are available. So as we move into some data, we're going to share some local, state, and national level data and trends, but also highlight some resources. So we're going to ask everyone who is listening, watching, to be able to take out their phones and save some of those resources as we go through them, because we never know when we might need to be able to share these resources out. So our most recent confirmed validated data is from the year of 2023. And what we do know nationally is over 49,000 individuals died by suicide in the US. For the same year in the state of Oregon, we had roughly 890 individuals pass by suicide. And in Deschutes County for the same year of 2023, we lost 41 lives. Recognizing that being able to know our resources and sharing them can help prevent suicide. Our first resource we're asking people to save in their phones is the Deschutes County Stabilization Center, located at 63311 Northeast Jameson Street in Bend, kind of by the DMV. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Any individual who may be experiencing a mental health crisis can go and access that in-person resource for emotional support. Our next data is around youth and youth suicide trends. What we do know in the state of Oregon is that we're seeing a decrease in suicide deaths among youth and young people ages 24 and under. Whereas in Deschutes County, our preliminary data is showing a downward trend for ages 17 and under, while we're seeing an upward trend for 18 to 24-year-olds. And this is based off of comparing it to our historical county data. When we're thinking about youth-related resources, the one that we'd like to highlight and ask people to save in their phones is Youthline. Youthline is a youth-based resource that is available to youth. They can text teen to teen to 839-863, or they can call 877-968-8491. It's also available 24/7, and it's free and confidential. Our last data is around lethal means. We recognize that reducing access to lethal means is a key way to prevent suicide. When we look at our Deschutes County suicide rates when it comes to suicide by firearm for ages 19 and under, we continue to see that we are higher than the state and the nation. So being able to identify how to securely store lethal means such as firearms in our homes is really paramount and can really help lower our rates. So the resource we're asking folks to save in their phones is our new resource. It's safefirearmstorage.com. This is a regional project. It's in English and in Spanish. All the resources on there helps folks know what secure storage is, the variety of different ways to do it, and how to have the conversation with a loved one to voluntarily and temporarily reduce access to lethal means when they're in a crisis. Now, as we transition out of data, we're going to talk a little bit briefly about our program reach and impact. A public health approach to suicide prevention really helps save lives. by working collaboratively in the community through strategic efforts to have a widespread impact really helps be able to help lower our rates. So we're going to just highlight briefly some of the things that our program has done. Since 2023, our program has trained over 2,500 community members and professionals in suicide prevention and intervention evidence-based trainings that teach folks how to have the skills of saving lives in our community. In our last school year of 2024 to 25, 97% of school staff who were trained in those evidence-based trainings reported that they feel more confident in asking clearly and directly if a student or a community member is struggling with suicide. And lastly, our regional alliance, which is Central Oregon Suicide Prevention Alliance, or COSPA, which spans across Crook, Deschutes, and Jefferson County. They have a leadership group that has over 20 organizations represented at the table. That group works collectively together with shared expertise to have coordinated action to lower suicide rates and deaths within our Central Oregon region. So to kind of do an overview before I pass it over to Bethany to talk about events, we just want to recognize that suicide is a complex health issue. There is not one factor as to why an individual may pass by suicide. And even when we're seeing downward trends in our community, we still must remain vigilant because one death by suicide is one too many. And we all can play a part in suicide prevention. Our last resource we're going to highlight is 988. We ask folks to know and save this phone number and text line in their phones. Anyone can call or text 988 in our community and across the nation. It's also available 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You do not have to be in crisis to use this lifeline. If you're having a bad day or in between counseling appointments, struggling with substance use, or if you are in crisis, you can call or text 988. Okay, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one quick question before.
Yeah.
So we got 988, we
Mhm.
have Stabilization Center. Can you just walk us through, if someone calls 988 at this point, who is answering the phone? Where is that call going?
Yeah, so in the state of Oregon, every state has a different call center. In the state of Oregon, we primarily contract through Lines for Life. So when a community member texts or call 988, they're going to be answered by Lines for Life mental health professionals to answer their call or text.
Is there any kind of a referral process to bring people over to our local resources?
Oh, yeah. So if an individual is asking for local resources of where to go to get some support and services, Lines for Life has a database for our local resources. And so depending on what the ask is and what the need is, they can look through their database within our county to refer them to a service that they're asking for.
Thank you.
All right. So now we talk about some of the events. Again, thank you for having us for National Suicide Prevention Month. Here are some events that will be happening in our community. As Caroline mentioned, these are all free. The first one is a suicide prevention training.
Grab the microphone a little bit more because it's a hybrid meeting. There you go.
Yeah. The first one will take place tomorrow, downtown Bend. And it's going to be a 2-hour evidence-based suicide prevention and intervention training that will go over how to recognize warning signs, how to ask directly about suicide. We talk about local data. We talk about safe messaging and how to talk about suicide. And then we do have data and resources that we share. That is free to attend and it starts at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Our next activity that we would like to highlight is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of Darkness Walk. This is an annual walk that will occur in Alpenglow Park on Saturday, September 6th. Registration starts at 11 a.m. and the walk starts at 11:45, but it's a great opportunity to come together with other suicide loss survivors and those who are passionate about suicide prevention to bring awareness to the community. September 8th is National 988 Day, and we will be celebrating that in Deschutes County by having 988 resources and materials to pick up and share with the community. So if anyone is interested in spreading these resources, you can stop by 2100 Northeast Wise Court between 11:30 and 1:30 p.m. There'll be a table with resources in English and Spanish. If that time doesn't work, please reach out and we can set up another time. And finally, we have our 10th annual Candlelight Vigil. This is a very beautiful event that is worked on tirelessly by our Central Oregon Suicide Prevention Alliance outreach volunteers. This group has done this every year for 10 years, and it's an event in which we have community building for the purpose of healing and connectedness. There's music, there's poetry, and then we light a candle to honor those that we have lost to suicide. And that will take place this year on Thursday, September 11th, starting at 6:30 p.m. It's downtown Bend on the front lawn of the Bend Lapine Schools admin building, and all are welcome to join that event. As we wrap up today, I just wanted to take another moment for some gratitude and recognition of our Central Oregon Suicide Prevention Alliance. Caroline mentioned the leadership group that works tirelessly, but we also have an outreach group of volunteers that work with us on these projects. And we feel so honored to be able to work with such champions in our community in suicide prevention. And so while the COSPA outreach volunteers are not here with us today, we just wanted to take a moment to shine a light on them and thank them for all that they do to work alongside each other. And they're really instrumental in planning all of these events this month. So yes, just great thanks to them. And then thank you all commissioners for your willingness to highlight this important health matter in our community. We thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thanks for the great overview. So we do have a proclamation in support of recognizing September as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Looking at this, how about Commissioner Dare, if you want to read the first four whereases, and you can read down to the resolution at the end. We'll just kind of break it into two big parts, and then I'll finish it up. Okay.
Our proclamation recognizing September as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas in the United States, one person dies by suicide every 11 minutes, with over 49,000 deaths every year in our country. Whereas in Deschutes County, approximately 3 people die by suicide each month. In Oregon, for youths ages 5 to 24, suicide is the second leading cause of death. Each person's death by suicide affects at least 135 other people, which translates to at least 50% of the U.S. population has known someone who has lost their life to suicide. Friends and family members are forever changed by this loss. Whereas in Deschutes County, roughly 58% of all suicide deaths are by firearm. For youth, 65% of the suicide deaths of those aged 10 to 17 is by firearm. Both of these trends are higher than the state and the national averages. Whereas many of the people who have died by suicide never received effective behavioral health services for many reasons, including the stigma of using behavioral health treatment and the stigma associated with losing a loved one to suicide.
Whereas far too many Deschutes County residents die by suicide each year. Whereas Deschutes County is dedicated to partnering with behavioral health, healthcare organizations, state and local agencies, military and veterans organizations, educational institutions, and the community at large to reduce the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths, and the pain for those affected by suicide deaths. This is witnessed by 1. Recognizing suicide as a significant public health issue in Deschutes County and declaring suicide prevention a countywide priority. 2. supporting accessible behavioral health services for all in our county. 3, helping to destigmatize help-seeking behaviors. 4, acknowledging that everyone plays a role in helping to prevent suicide. And 5, encouraging initiatives known to be effective at preventing suicide attempts and death, such as securely storing firearms.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners do hereby designate the month of September and each year thereafter as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Deschutes County and urge the community to learn how they can help prevent suicide. Dated on this 3rd day of September by the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any other discussion? So one of my thoughts is, just acknowledging, letting people even have enough kind of thought to say, oh, this is a serious business. If you hear about it, let's do something about it. If you know somebody's struggling, make sure they understand resources, but just for every resident of Deschutes County. So just taking a moment to acknowledge it is very important. So any other discussion?
Oh, no, I did want to focus on our veterans at this moment in time because I know the veterans' suicide is really, for our nation, is higher recently than it has been in the past. And I just want to thank all those groups that are working with veterans in order to give them a point in time where they realize that their life is way more valuable than taking it.
I just want to thank Caroline and Bethany and the whole prevention team for your work to raise awareness about suicide, to help people better understand how they can prevent it, and for sharing all the resources that you shared today, because people need to know things before they can take advantage of them. Thank you.
So calling for the vote, Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes. Thank you very much. There'll be a signed copy of this available after the meeting. Item,
Kim is asking if we'd like it.
oh, no, photo? Yeah, no, let's do that. Sorry, I was thinking about the time. We've been slipping this whole agenda here a little.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we are. Get the logo.
No, because we got the seal in there.
Here we go.
All right, 1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Okay, we're good.
And thank you for your efforts. Okay, as I say, I was just starting to think of the time here today. We're watching it slip away, but no rush. Item number 5, consideration of a possible review of a text amendment. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name's Audrey Stewart, Associate Planner with the Planning Division. I'm here today to request board direction on a pending application for a text amendment to allow an RV park as a new conditional use in the Tumalo Commercial District. I've passed out some additional materials, including a hearings officer recommendation that just went out in the mail this morning. I'll provide some procedural background and then ask for direction on whether the board would like to call up this application and hold your own de novo hearing, regardless of whether the hearings officer recommendation is appealed. There are 2 categories of text amendments, legislative and quasi-judicial. In general, legislative amendments involve broad policy decisions, while quasi-judicial amendments apply pre-existing criteria impact a limited number of properties, and must result in a decision. For quasi-judicial amendments, we process these in the same way as a zone change application. This involves an initial hearing before a hearings officer, but the board must take final action because only the board has the authority to modify Deschutes County Code. The hearings officer found that this application meets the definition of a quasi-judicial amendment, but it also has qualities of a legislative amendment. The hearings officer issued a recommendation and laid out the applicable approval criteria. The hearings officer recommends approval of these amendments, but states the board may accept, reject, or modify his recommendation. Staff recommends that the board initiate review of this application. This would get ahead of procedural questions regarding how to process an appeal and would give more clarity to everyone who has been involved in this process. There's significant public interest in this application, and the board's decision will have elements of a local policy decision. Holding a public hearing before the board will allow more opportunities for public input, will resolve potential procedural issues, and will allow the board to provide their own input on these proposed amendments. I've included two versions of draft board order 2025-040. In response to some of the applicant's concerns that were received yesterday, staff and legal counsel tweaked the language that's provided. So you'll notice there's some slight differences between what's in your board packet and then the two draft board orders I passed out today. And with that, staff is available for any questions or discussion from the board.
So we have a request to speak on the matter from a representative of the applicant. I don't know that that's appropriate at this time. Can you give us clarity? And we got the email requesting previously also.
Good morning, Stephanie Marshall, Senior Assistant Legal Counsel. This isn't a public hearing, but it is up to the board chair as to whether to entertain that request. The notice has been published and it's on the agenda. So
Procedurally, we could go either way. I guess that is
the answer.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I have a couple questions to start with.
Please,
but,
yep.
So this question of whether this is a quasi-judicial or a legislative decision, I appreciate the thought that this specific application only affects a very small area within Tumalo. But I do wonder whether approving or disapproving this application encourages or discourages property owners in other parts of the county to seek text amendments to authorize, enable RV parks in more places than they are currently allowed. And to me, that would be more of a policy question than a quasi-judicial question. So, I mean, I'm going to ask a couple of policy type questions. That's the first is, do we anticipate that this could encourage or discourage similar applications in other areas seeking text changes that could authorize RV parks in new places? But that kind of gets into the bigger policy question of is it good for us to have more RV parks in the county? And on the policy level on that question, I think we do want more RV parks in the county. The question is whether they would go in places where the value of them is outweighs the potential impacts that they might cause, which is kind of what the hearings officer is considering in this specific case. So I mean, could you answer that first question first?
Yes, thank you. Will Groves, your planning manager for the record. So whenever you see an application of a type, and in particular, if it succeeds, it, can cause other people to ask, is this possible for me too? The thing that really limits the potential for this to expand is that RV parks are in our rural land, so RR10, MUA10 are limited to the same density that residential development would be under Goal 14 without a Goal 14 exception. So you would get one RV per 10 acres. And so generally it's not an attractive proposition. That's why we haven't seen those in many locations. In terms of Tumalo, Terrebonne, Sun River are urban unincorporated communities, there is some possibility that we might see requests to allow these in other sections of those communities. But no, I'm not aware of anything to date of anyone following on the coattails of this.
Earlier, we talked about the difference between an RV park and a campground. And what's the difference between an RV park and a campground with a significant number of RV sites? So can I just ask the consideration you just offered us a moment ago, Will? Well, RV parks would only allow RVs at 1 per 10 acre densities. Is that also true of campgrounds in the zones where they are allowed?
That is different. So it's important to note that manufactured home parks, RV parks, and campgrounds are things that are defined separately under state statute. And so when you think of a campground, one of the inherent limitations there is occupancy limitations. And so typically you can't, occupy those sites for more than a certain number of days, often 30 days. So they're not a long-term solution for people to live in. In the case of manufactured home parks and RV parks, when you see those, the state sees RV parks that are allowed for long-term occupancy as really a type of manufactured home park. So you have some sort of non-conventional dwelling on a much smaller lot than you would expect, and it's allowed for permanent occupancy. So for those, for when you're dealing with an RV park in the sense of, is it a campground? Certainly you can pull an RV into an established campground. And you can have either, were you to establish a campground, say in the MUA 10 zone under the regulations that allow that, you could have, all your sites have hookups, for RVs with the understanding that they would have a limited occupancy duration and weren't a permanent solution. Those could be tent, as well as there's some allowance for yurts. So, permanent structures, temporary occupation for some of those sites.
Thank you. Okay. So a couple of my other questions. This concept that, one of the rationales or the goals of allowing our RV parks is to support tourism, because there is tourism demand for a variety of types of guest lodging, which made me wonder about short-term rentals. So, I mean, if people are expressing concerns about an RV park in their backyard or in their neighborhood, I actually want to know how many short-term rentals are potentially allowed in Tumalo or the Tumalo commercial zone. It's my impression that we don't have any kind of a density cap or a number threshold, like no more than this many short-term rentals in a given area. Is that correct?
That's correct. Outside of the resource zones, our farm and forest zones, there's currently no restrictions on short-term rental density. So in effect, any lawful residential structure could be put to short-term rental use in this area.
Okay. And then so that begs the question of whether we by default, if we want to disallow this use by default, if we're giving preferential treatment to a certain kind of guest lodging, short-term rentals over RV parks, and the impacts are different. Definitely, it's a they are different in nature, and they would affect a neighborhood differently. But from a tourism business perspective, are we favoring one kind of business guest lodging over another? So that needs to be part of the consideration here as well. I also wanted to ask, so just to get into some of the nitty gritty of Tumalo, do we have a sense, and Chris Doty might be a good person to ask this, do we actually have a sense of when the sewer is coming?
So point of order, I mean, we're talking about calling this up or not. You're going way down a path, which, I mean, fine, but is this the right place to be right now? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, sorry. So that is another question I have that could be saved for later. Those first two, I think, are policy level questions that, I did want to ask right at the beginning of this process.
I'm just thinking procedurally, we don't want to make it unclear about what we're doing here. That's all.
That's fine.
Do you have is there looking for a response still at all, or?
Nope, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. So those types of policy decisions or requests for, additional comments from a different agency, the appropriate forum for that would be a board hearing. So if the board.
So we're talking about calling it up or not. That's yeah. Just making sure we're getting on the same page. Any other thoughts, Commissioner Dare?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So then, as I say, there is a request from applicant representative. I'm still not sure. I mean, I want to hear, but I don't know.
Oh, I do have another question. I see the hearings officer was Tommy Brooks again. And so I'm assuming he was not in person, right?
Correct.
When are we going to actually get hearings officers that are in person for these incredibly impactful events that are happening in Deschutes County? And he's on Zoom from Portland, I believe. So I hear from people and, the room is full and yet he is not here. And I just know that being here would be so much more impactful to the whole discussion. Thank you, Will.
Yes, thank you. And as we've discussed before, it's certainly an interest of CDD. If nothing else, it helps management of the hearing. Sometimes when you have a full room, it can be hard to have the hearings officer who has some authority in that space not be physically present. So we have a definite interest in that. We've been working with COIC and talking to some other partners about regional hearings officers, trying to coordinate on getting somebody that's available, to us more generally, and continuing to have those discussions. Something that we probably in a different forum should bring up is to talk to the board that having hearings officers, we try to get hearings officers who are not located locally to minimize the chance for conflict of interest. And that to the extent that we have them come over, we would be paying travel costs. Those costs increase the cost of the hearing and get passed on either historically directly to the applicant or currently to spread across the entire budget. So we'd be looking for some direction from the board about those costs and the relative merits of that. But we've also struggled to get hearings officers at the rate that we've offered. Somebody once told me that when you can't find somebody for a job, you always have to finish that sentence at the wage you've offered. And so we would be looking for some direction too. If we were willing to increase the amount that we were willing to pay to solicit to people, we'd probably get higher quality. And well, certainly the quality is excellent now, but we would get more quality candidates.
Interactive.
More depth. Yes.
I get someone locally that would actually be willing, and I think it would be so much more respectful of our community to have that person in the room.
Yeah, and we have, in the past, for example, Karen Green was local, but it did increase the chance. These attorneys frequently practice in the area, and so that they have a lot of conflicts. And so when we did use local hearings officers, we needed more of them to ensure that somebody didn't have a business relationship with one or more of the parties. And sometimes it was difficult to detect who would become involved. The hearings officer would find midway through a hearing that a neighbor was one of their clients, for example, who hadn't participated previously. So not a full impediment, but a difficulty that we ran into.
Okay, then we pay them to come from Portland, but they need to be in the room.
Well, yeah, we'll bring that up in a separate venue for the.
Well, I just keep seeing it and I keep saying it and I keep thinking that, okay, it's got to happen sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
So another note, so there was the staff report was part of the original agenda, and you did hand us the decision from the hearings officer, and that was available yesterday.
That just went out in the mail this morning. So
But so we didn't have access to it before this. I'm just making sure, because yeah, end of the day yesterday, I didn't see it. Just making sure I didn't miss something here.
this hearings officer recommendation just went out in the mail today. The original staff report is one of the exhibits. The other exhibits are the applicant's final proposed code language, as well as the hearings officer slight modification to that proposed code language.
So I'm just looking at the conclusion statement. It just says I find that the applicant's proposed amendments comply with the county's provisions, and then it talks about how, yeah, we could make some decisions in that space, I guess, is the rest of that paragraph.
Exactly. And again, the board didn't have, because of the timing, the board didn't have a chance to fully review this recommendation. The hearings officer did go into some depth about this also having qualities of a legislative amendment. And so he described kind of the unique nature of this application. And though it did meet this definition of a quasi-judicial amendment, that it also appeared to also be legislative in nature.
Okay, so as I said, I think I'm going to be supportive of hearing this. I just want to get that out there. So now procedurally, would you like to speak? And as long as it's not a violation of anything.
Yeah, Commissioner Chair DeBonne, I do understand that the applicant submitted a letter yesterday as well.
So
so
along those lines.
this is along those lines. That's my expectation. So.
Good morning, Commissioners. Adam Smith with Robbie Williamson Wyatt. Our firm represents the applicant. My address is 360 Southwest Bond Street, Suite 500, Bend, Oregon, 97702. So yeah, things are happening in real time. I submitted the letter last night when we were aware of the agenda item. We also then received the decision this morning and reviewed the decision. I think the code provisions are relatively clear, at least that everybody was operating under, that the hearing officer did have authority to make a decision. In this case, he elected to only make a recommendation. So we're kind of stuck in a quandary where we're going to have substantial procedural errors, whether those are from my client or any other participants in the room, unless the county commissioners call up the case. So we would still urge the county commissioners to call up the case and, insulate this process from any subsequent appeals. I mean, that would certainly be in our best interest. Commissioner Chang, I look forward to answering some of your policy questions if you, in fact, call it up and we can have those conversations. I think you raised some really good points, and we look forward to addressing those. Commissioner Adair, from my perspective, having appeared in front of a lot of virtual hearing officers, at the bare minimum, I would encourage the county to put the hearing officer on a large screen in the middle as opposed to the small screens on the side. Because when the hearing officer is on the small screen on the side and you're trying to present testimony, it just is a mess. And so at the bare minimum, to save costs for the entire community, applicants, everything else, if we still do virtual hearing officers, we can at least change the room and make it a little bit more conducive to a functional hearing. But that's all I'll say.
Thank you for those comments.
Just, I'm trying to make sure I'm tracking. So, Mr. Smith, are you recommending that the hearings officer should have made a decision and then the board would not review that decision? Or are you just saying that you wish the hearings officer had made a decision instead of a recommendation, and the question of whether the board hears it or not is another question?
So the process that we were operating under was worked out with county staff, and it was in reaction to the Planning Commission recently recommending denial of another application because it only involved a small number of properties. So in reaction to that decision with county staff, we said, well, we should process this through a quasi-judicial process. The closest analogy in the code is the process that governs map amendment and zone changes, which are also legislative in nature, but only address one property. For those class of projects, the hearing officer does make a final decision. If the application involves an exception to a statewide planning goal or a resource zone, then it automatically goes to the county commissioners. If it does not involve a statewide planning goal exception or resource zone, then the hearing officer's decision is final unless appealed or a call-up is initiated by the board. So if the hearing officer's decision is final, there is no call-up, and there is no appeal, then the county commissioners just adopt an ordinance approving the hearing officer's decision. So that could have been the case here, but when the hearing officer made statements during the hearing that I'm only making a recommendation, this will definitely go in front of the county commissioners, that was concerning to us, not necessarily because we were trying to keep this thing from the county commissioners, but just because we want to make sure that the process is fair and doesn't senselessly lead to a LUBA appeal. So we worked it out with county staff and said, hey, this can all be cleaned up, fixed, everything is addressed if the county commissioners just call up the case. Unbeknownst to at least me, the hearing officer then did only issue a recommendation. I mean, it is not a full decision. He's saying that there are a few other issues that are going to need to be addressed by the county commissioners. So that puts a pretty big, procedural issue into this process unless the county commissioners call it up. So that's why we're urging you to call it up. We would love to present our project to you. As Commissioner Chang raised, there are some interesting policy decisions that are not directly related to this application, but there's some indirect. There's been a lot of work that the county itself has done on RV parks and campgrounds. That was part of the motive for this. We would love to talk through all of those issues with you, how we're trying to help solve the problem. So that's why we've always been supportive of getting this project in front of you. And at this point, I think procedurally we have to get it in front of you, or man, we're just kind of in a mess and I don't know where we go from there. I literally just read the decision on my phone in your hearing. So I haven't quite figured out how we can unpack this if you don't call it up. And so I'm instead hoping you guys call it up.
Okay.
I'd like to ask county legal counsel for their opinion about this procedural question.
Yes, and we've tried to unpack this in a number of ways. Mr. Smith just did summarize the closest analogy, which the hearings officer could make a decision. They make a recommendation when it involves resource lands or goal exceptions or both. And that's why most of what you get from rezone or text amendments, oftentimes you get recommendations from the hearings officer. As far as the procedural issues that are in play here, I don't necessarily disagree. We have a lot of creative attorneys in the area. And, a procedural issue is one that typically the county would want to avoid, because then you're on appeal, talking about things that, procedurally rather than the merits of the application. So, I do not disagree, or I guess I could say more directly, I agree with Mr. Smith and also with staff's recommendation that the board call this up. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that gives me a little clarity on the process. So as I say, I did conclude that I would be supportive of calling this up. Anybody else? Yeah, so.
Sure.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so at that time, we do have an order number, 040 either way, but accepting, or so making sure I'm looking at the right one here. So is it saying, so accepting review of hearings officer?
And if I may, Commissioner, if you could confirm for the record that you're adopting the version that was passed out today. would
Right.
help.
Well, that's what I was just making sure. Yeah,
So it's
okay.
order number 2025-040.
And a version handed out at the meeting just now.
And this order basically says we will hear the hearings officer's recommendation.
Correct. So this board order is initiating review. So the board has the ability or the discretion to initiate review even if an appeal isn't filed. And so this is getting ahead of that appeal process by just from the beginning saying the board is going to have their own hearing. And then I would schedule and mail public notice for a full de novo board hearing.
So is there a motion?
So move hearing order number 2025-040.
And I'll read the title. So, an order accepting review of hearings officer's recommendation on file number 247-25106-TA.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Okay. Thank you for working through that with us.
Commissioners.
Audrey, I do have a question. Is this on a timeline?
This is not
Good
something
question.
for the 150-day clock.
Okay, just wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, clarification on guidelines for a district mapping advisory committee.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. Back on August 27th, the District Mapping Advisory Committee, which we are calling the DMAC, met for their orientation meeting. In that orientation meeting, they reviewed the guidelines that have been drafted and brought before the board for approval. And there was a question of clarification on the guidelines, whether or not the guidelines are a suggestion or if the board is directing the DMAC to follow the guidelines exactly as they're written. Particularly the question that came up was the ability, if there was a majority favor of the DMAC to draft a map that had 4 districts and 1 at large, or as currently written in the DMAC, if they are required to draft a map that only encompasses 5 equally proportional districts.
How many times have we voted on this, honestly? Coming from LA County, when each supervisor or commissioner in LA County represents over 2 million people, I believe we voted on it a couple times already. And to bring this back for whatever, the 3rd or 4th time, no, I believe that people like me that live out in the country, I don't have a city councilor. The commissioners will be the people that represent me. So I really feel like 5 districts makes the most sense. So the people in the community, in the country can actually have someone that they can call on.
I watched the DMAC meeting, and the really important concern that some of the committee members raised, multiple of the committee members raised, was wanting to make sure that there are commissioners who are responsive to all of the voters in Deschutes County, and not just to a specific district. One of the committee members asked, well, if you got 5 districts and one of those districted commissioners isn't doing things to support the rest of the county, can't people from other districts just tell everybody in that district to vote them out? And I from my perspective, that's pretty unrealistic. If you look at the way that, congressional districts work, if you look at the way that our state legislative districts work, when you are elected in a district, your first priority is to serve the people of your district. And we see on a regular basis in those legislative bodies that oftentimes legislators aren't very concerned with what people in other parts of the state or nation care about, Congress or the state legislature doing. So I think that's the reason that this keeps coming back up as a question. And so if we want to have if you want to have the committee move on from asking those kinds of questions, then I think we need to give them a good answer. How, if you have 5 districts, you will ensure that there's somebody who's looking out for the county at large. So I'll float that question right here, and you're welcome to, craft your answer, because I think that's what the committee wants to hear.
So is there any specific topic that is the thing that we need to advocate for? And it goes to land use for me because we have countywide other elected officials. Board of Commissioners has the budget authority over the big thing, but the assessor, the treasurer, the clerk, justice of the peace, district attorney, and sheriff, countywide services. Solid waste, countywide services, roads, they're the adopted set of roads that we have. So what are we trying to fix? What's broken? Other than land, I mean, land use is where I think it's at.
You could imagine districts, a district commissioner getting very parochial and, advocating for resources to be expended in their district. They have a transfer station. I want a transfer station. They got a roundabout. I want a roundabout. They got a behavioral health clinic. I want a behavioral health clinic. Well, the traffic through this area of your district doesn't justify a roundabout. I don't care. They got a roundabout. The districts are supposed to be treated equally. I want a roundabout too. So, I mean, if those kinds of things come up, what is to prevent 5 districted commissioners from kind of devolving into that kind of like, well, I get one, you get one, type thinking, whether the services are needed or not.
We probably should just stay at 3 commissioners then, right?
Thank you.
No, if you
I'm
had,
sorry,
if you had 3
so-
3 districted commissioners, you could see the exact same problem.
So in the Oregonian today, the comics section, one of the little, I just happened to flip through it. It's got a line driven through the living room, and the husband's in one district and the wife's in the other district. And this is a topic nationally right now, obviously.
I mean, if you want to stay at 3 districts, you can launch your own ballot measure to repeal the measure that was passed by a 2-to-1 majority by the voters of Deschutes County.
Yeah. So I support, the ask of the commission, the committee here from the commission is 5 equally proportioned seats. The goal is by law 10%, but 5% is the goal for the population balance. And I support going there. So it looks like it'll be 2-to-1 today for where we're going here. Yeah. So any other policy type decisions, inputs to them?
I did want to share one more thing on this issue. When I was at the NACO conference this summer, I talked to one of the Missoula County, Montana commissioners, and he said, "Well, we have districts and we're elected at large." So, which I thought was a pretty interesting solution to this question of how do you ensure that there's somebody from your area of the county that is can carry that perspective, that regional perspective to the Board of Commissioners, but also how do you ensure that that person represents everybody? So they, then after I thought about it, I said, oh, well, that's actually the way the Ben Lapine School District does it. So you want to run for a specific districted seat, you have to live in that district, but then you go to a countywide election. And so I think that that's an interesting thing worth considering as well. I printed out information about that.
Thank you.
From the Missoula County website. So put that in the record as well.
So was that an effort following other districting efforts, or did they do that up front, do you think? I haven't
I
studied.
didn't get the history
learn
of how it happened that way, but they just told me like, oh, well, this is the way that we do it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be something worth, potentially. I mean, that could be something that we offer to the District Mapping Advisory Committee to consider as well.
Well, I'd like to study that, and I'm not opposed to bringing that back for discussion to understand the clarity. So we could give them input on that, but that would be a future step, just because I'm hearing about it right now.
Great. So at this time, I'll give them clarity on the 5 districts. And then September 10th is the first meeting that DMAC has where they're going to dive into the work. So we have let them know that as future questions come up where they want direction from the board, we may bring other items before you. But at this time, that was the only item.
Great. Well, and I want to thank you for your efforts. It was quite an event, even getting that group together. A lot of introductions happened. I was there at the very beginning of it, and then I stepped out of the room. The remote video worked fine. I was traveling, and I ended up taking a call, so I dialed in, and then I dropped it pretty quick, but I tried to follow it. So thank you very much for what we're doing.
And the video is posted online on the.
Oh, great. Yeah, watch it.
Anyone can watch it. Yep.
After the fact.
.org/DMAC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, other items, and we do have executive session today also. Is there any?
Commissioners, I'll just revisit a topic that you discussed earlier regarding hearings officers, and just to share with you that I and we are working with the City of Bend and Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, COIC, on issuing an RFP for hearings officers, and potentially looking at a model that Lane County has, which is where their COG, their Council of Governments, has a pool of hearings officers that the county and local governments can then tap into at a lower cost to conduct their in-person public land use hearings. So just to let you know, that process is underway. Will Groves was not a part of the email exchange we had yesterday, so I've looped him into that. Peter has been.
Great.
So just to provide an update as a follow-up to your discussion earlier.
Well, thank you so much. Other item?
Sure. I'm not sure exactly how much commissioners are aware. I don't know. I've spoken with Nick on this, but Marion County is asking for whether you're agreeable to including the county's name on a letter they're sending. They've filed a lawsuit in federal court naming the state and the federal government and basically saying that the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act is in conflict with some of the federal mandates with regard specifically to immigration-related issues. The case in Marion County involves some subpoenas that ICE has served on Marion County. The federal law would suggest that the county has to comply with the subpoena request. The Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act would suggest that maybe they don't. So the letter they're asking to have all the counties sign on to is simply requesting the Attorney General for the state and the U.S. Attorney for the federal government that they and their attorneys associated with this case solicit the court to give us some clarity on how those laws interact with one another. So it's not really getting ideological on one side or the other. It's just saying whatever the heck it is, some clarity on this because we're in kind of a bind. We haven't been served with those ICE subpoenas. We could be, and then we'd be in the same situation. And it also extends to some other things, including grants and whatnot, where some of the federal grants are conditioning that you cooperate with ICE and immigration. And again, the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act would suggest you can't do that. And so we think there's a real benefit in getting some clarity. It's not to say the court will give us clarity, but the ask is out there. The sheriffs have all signed a letter like that as well. I believe 34 of the 36 sheriffs have, including Sheriff Rupert. So it's simply an ask. It's not a letter from you folks. It's just whether they can include your name, Deschutes County, on the letter that the Marion County will be sending out ideally within the next week or so, is my understanding.
Do you know how many counties have actually given their permission? I know I saw it.
It was discussed on Friday on a county council Zoom call, but I'm not sure how many. Most of the counties needed to reach out and speak with their boards this week. I would suspect it'll be similar to the sheriffs. I don't know.
The 34 have.
I think it'll certainly be 25 or more that would probably do it. I think if it's presented properly, I would expect all 36 would, because it's non-ideal.
Clarity.
It's not. We're just saying, give us some clarity. You're the courts. It's what's called a declaratory relief action. It's just saying, hey, here's some laws that appear to be in conflict and we're stuck in the middle. Tell us what we have to follow. Now, whether that'll be the end of it, probably not, because this is a trial court, which means there's additional appellate courts. And but this is at least a step, and the county councils have all asked that we reach out and check with our county commissioners. So that's what this purpose is for today.
I'd like to see specific letter language before I sign on to anything.
Okay, I thought you folks had the letter. I had forwarded it. The letter says, Dear Attorney General Rayfield and U.S. Attorney Bondi, legal uncertainty harms everyone and benefits no one. It's currently unclear how Oregon's Sanctuary Promise Act, Oregon's Public Records Act, and federal laws interact and apply due to apparent conflicts, including situations where a local government is served with an administrative subpoena. The undersigned Oregon counties encourage the parties in Marion County versus Kotek to ask the federal court to issue a detailed opinion that provides the type of clarity that will help all local governments ensure that they are properly following federal, state, and local laws. That's it.
I'm supportive. I see this as, mom's saying one thing, dad's saying another, and we need some clarity here. So it's just kind of where we're at.
I'm supportive. Clarity.
Would you like to see it?
Yeah, I followed it, but the as part of this research project, exploration analysis, will there be consideration of whether federal agency actions are actually legal and constitutional or not? Basically if a subpoena is generated through an action that is not actually legal under the Constitution, how will this analysis deal with that situation?
I would expect that would be a case-by-case type of legal challenge that you'd see if someone feels that something crossed that. This particular lawsuit is pretty narrow, and it's just simply asking where these laws are in conflict. So assuming that the actions being undertaken lawfully on whichever side, but we're butting up against these laws that are in conflict with one another. You can't comply with some of the federal requirements and also be in compliance with the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act. And so rather than have the counties have to pick which one they're going to hang their hat on and then run the risk of getting sued, the purpose of this lawsuit is just to ask the court to tell us when those laws butt up against each other, which one wins, so to speak. And this is limited to the immigration area. It's essentially ICE and the immigration basis. So it's really getting at the whole issue of federal preemption. I mean, when I was in law school many years ago, I was taught that immigration, that the federal government's preempted, that the states have no say or rights in immigration. It's a power that's 100% reserved to the federal government. Laws have changed in various states and jurisdictions that have challenged that. And at some point, I suspect we'll get a definitive answer from the United States Supreme Court. To the extent we don't already have one, maybe we do. Depends on which case law you hang your hat on. But yeah, that's kind of what this issue is. And like I say, Marion County is doing most of us a favor, because we could have been the ones that got hit with the ICE subpoenas. And then we'd have been in that same situation of saying, well, if we comply with that, we're probably not in compliance with the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act. If we hang our hat on the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, we're probably disobeying a federal law, and there's potential damages and sanctions on either of those fronts. And so it's not a good place to be. And so the purpose of this, but yeah, I think to answer your question, if there's a particular fact pattern that would support that the argument that the whatever it is that's being put forth that's causing this question as to what law is applicable, that in and of itself might not have been appropriate or lawful, I would expect that to be attacked on a case-by-case basis. And I don't know that this particular ask has any impact on that one way or the other.
Well, I'll abstain on this one.
Okay, yeah, there's support. Two of us are saying yes, let's please join. So the position of Deschutes County.
Take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Couple other items I've got a note of. So that our CAOIC board meeting is Thursday night, and the blueprint line is on the agenda, probably between about 6 and 6:30. If you want to try to join us remotely, it is a hybrid meeting, and it'll be John Aola or whatever his name is, same folks, but it'll be the dynamics will be 3 commissioners, multiple city councilors, obviously not Jefferson County as much, but Crook and Deschutes. All parties will be able to discuss it and kind of think about it as a group.
So you think it's between 6 and 6:30?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you anticipate that there'll be community members?
Yeah, we haven't seen that at the COIC board meeting, but I mean, yeah, I'm mentioning it now. It's been published for a week. So if people are picking up on it, there may be. So I don't know. And it's not a public hearing on the matter. It's going to be just an agenda item. So as I say, maybe somebody will want to try to say something at the beginning of the meeting, but it's really educational outreach. Oregon State Fire Marshal, I was able to sign the demobilization from our joint incident on Monday at 9:30 a.m. There's a report that the State Fire Marshal publishes in a PDF form and print form. Brenda has a copy of it for you if you want to take a look. Their real-time costs for the Oregon State Fire Marshal is about $5 million, but that's just their agency. So I'm sure the event will be more. But want to thank, State Fire Marshal. There was like 37 agencies that showed up in partnership to respond to this wildland fire structure response, all the crews, all the support systems. So we got to see that whole state system come into gear at Sisters Rodeo Ground, go up to a big city and then come back apart. It's still being managed by Oregon Department of Forestry Type 3 incident management team. So obviously they're still working on the fire itself. And these are critical days, as I say, red flag warnings right now still. So let's not let our guard down. There's a printed copy of that report and PDFs available. And it shows structure estimates, loss estimates for a few specific properties. I think all the ones that were residential, primary residences, and a few other structures. So it's a good overview. It's just a point in time as they were finishing up this incident, but it's good information. And then Commissioner Dare, just in passing, you mentioned that you'll be out next week.
Yes, I'm taking up Tuesday for the Pendleton Roundup.
So that'll be for our scheduling. I don't know what the agenda looks like.
And that is the day of the joint fair board meeting. So
Right. I won't be there.
you won't be there.
Okay. But yeah, just for our Wednesday meeting also, whatever. But yeah, so just acknowledging. So it'll be the two of us.
Yes.
We'll go from there. Anything else?
But you will be here for the Monday meeting.
Yes, I just said I was leaving on Tuesday.
Afternoon, okay.
I would like to leave on Monday so I could see the barrel racing, but I'm going to leave on Tuesday. So,
Well, Monday,
well, I'll sacrifice.
So that I'm just trying to give staff an indication that, if they want to load the Monday board meeting more heavily to have 3 commissioners here, that, that would work for me.
well, even if there's something of substance, I mean, I don't mind meeting down here too, 'cause so we'll see tomorrow what the agenda items are. Okay, anything else, other items? Seeing none, executive session.
Deschutes County. May only report that the board met in executive session and the identified basis for meeting in executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made, and at the conclusion, we will open the doors and invite the audience back to the meeting.
Okay, we'll be back after this session. All right, please proceed as discussed. Is there anything else for this board meeting? Being none, meeting adjourned.